Hello, Kathy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you. Um,
Thank
we met each other, well, a couple of times, a couple of months ago, back in Awakening in Manchester,
Yeah.
which was a fantastic event.
Yes.
But before that, it was at Chris Evans's Outer Limits
Yeah.
magazine conference. I saw you there, and
Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you there about coming on the show, and so we finally got around to it over a year
There you
later.
go. Perfect.
But it's pretty. I know you've been on a few other shows as well, namely our friends the twins, the
Yes.
Kinsella brothers.
The Kinsella brothers. Yes. Yep. Love doing their show. It's funny. Most of the shows I've done, some here in the US, but a lot of the times I'm doing the UK shows, which is fine by me. It feels like a second home at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I know you do like it over here when you come over.
I
Um,
love it.
are you coming back again at some point soon? Or yeah, in the new year?
Oh, I'd like to think I'd make the Awakenings conference next year. We'll see what
Right.
this year brings, but it'd be nice to think I could do that again. Although I did get caught up in that mess of all the planes being
Oh, yes, I remember.
canceled and delayed, and yeah, so I
Yeah.
was almost 2 days late getting home.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually remember you saying now when you,
yeah.
yeah. It makes me wonder if they're doing it all on purpose, to put us all off flying the way.
Well, I tell you, there was a lot of people at the airport that showed up to then find out that there was this glitch and there were the cancellations. A
Mm,
lot of people got very frightened because they thought of terrorism,
mm,
that
mm.
could something be going on. So, yeah, glad luckily I got home okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you do get back next year. Anyway, I've been so intrigued. You were kind enough to send me some paperwork here, and I was actually blown away with some of the things that are on it. Uh, I mean, let's start off with your childhood. You being a clairvoyant and a visitation of your grandfather at age 6. I mean,
Yeah, I
and you
was
actually
young.
remember that.
Oh my God, I will never forget it. I was, yeah, I was 6. And we had visited my grandfather the day before. He was in the hospital. He had been in the hospital for a little bit. And back in those days, they wouldn't let children into the hospital. So we, stood outside on a hill that was, down below my grandfather's window. He came to the window and he waved to us kids. And, we all waved back and, we go home, go to bed that night. The middle of the night, I can't even tell you what woke me up, but I wake up, sit up in bed, and I look over into the corner of the room where we had a little TV on a TV stand. And inside the entire TV is my grandfather, clear as day, filling the entire screen, very animated, talking to me. But I couldn't hear him. And I look over, my sister and I shared a room. I looked over, she's sound asleep. And I look back at the TV and he's still talking to me. And I dove under my covers because I was so scared. And I must have fallen asleep. And then the next morning, my dad calls us kids downstairs, me, my sister, my brother, only to tell us that our grandfather had passed away that night. So from what I know now, David, I believe he came to visit me while he was transitioning
Mm,
and leaving this world. And it's interesting because that was the start of pretty much everything when I look back on things. And he has come back to visit. He's often with me. And he presents when I know he's here, he presents with the smell of sweet tobacco because he used to hand roll all of his own cigarettes with this awesome smelling sweet tobacco. I was very fascinated to watch as a kid to watch him roll his own cigarettes. And so, yeah, so and I've had other mediums read me and he'll come through like that.
really?
And
Oh,
they're like,
wow.
oh, I'm smelling this tobacco. And I said, oh, yeah, that would be my grandfather. So, yeah, even in the spirit world, he's powerful, and
Mm.
he's a guide, he's told me that. So he's
So he
around.
takes care of you and things like that, does he?
I think so. He oversees it. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, do you believe that there are sort of like evil spirits that can actually interfere with you in your human
Yeah.
life? Yeah.
I think so. I've just intuitively known to do this. And through some of my training, in different modalities. I've just learned to do protection work around myself,
Mm.
especially if I'm traveling. I don't know. Every day I start my day with some protection work, and I'm usually pretty protected. There's been a few instances, but for the most part, yeah, it
Mm.
works for me.
I know on a lot of TV shows now, they talk a lot about demons and things. Like, if you watch the ghost shows and things, it seems
Yeah.
to be catching on quite a lot over here now about the effects of demons. I mean, do you believe in demons as well?
Yeah, I do. I do. I actually have two friends, Joe and Dorinda Stewart, who are demonologists, demon hunters. They came to stay with me back in August of 2022. And yeah, oh my gosh, we had a blast. Thankfully, didn't run into any demons, but I took them to different places that I knew they'd like to see or they wanted to see. And one of them was the Lizzie Borden house. I don't know if you know of her
Yep, I've heard it. Yeah.
and all of that, the 40 whacks with the hatchet. And,
Mm.
she
Wow.
supposedly
Yeah.
killed, yeah, her father and stepmother. Yeah. We went
Mm.
to the Lizzie Borden house. We each had experiences. It's the creepiest place. Yikes. Yeah, it's, if you pick up on these energies, I definitely felt this, I don't know if I'd say evil presence, but I felt this very heavy presence throughout that house. And
Mm.
I was pushed down a hallway. I was literally shoved into a wall is what
Wow.
happened. Yeah, that house is pretty active. Yeah. So
Mm.
they were with me. So yes, I do believe in demons. I afterwards, after I do some of what I call my sacred travels to some of these sites all over the world, I will go to a woman who's local here in Plymouth, and she's a healer, but she's a big open soul, and she oftentimes will detect certain things that have kind of latched onto me when I've come back from some of these trips, and she is able to clear me of some of these little entities, let's call
Mm.
them. So yeah, I do believe it, David. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is quite worrying. I mean, do these entities latch on to anybody who may be in that facility? And
I don't
I
know.
mean,
And David, I've got to wonder too, does it happen more to people like me, like maybe yourself, who's kind of open to all this? I can be an open channel. So I channel down, healing energies when I'm doing my healing work. So, I can be an open channel. So I do wonder if you're more susceptible. I kind of feel like you are. If you
hmm.
open up to the other dimensions, you never know what comes through.
Yeah, because something that kind of I think about it sometimes. Like if you've got no interest in the paranormal whatsoever, can some of these things actually affect you?
I
Without
think
you even
so.
knowing about it. And
Yeah,
maybe that's what happens to some of these murderers and people like that. They get
I know.
possessed in some way, and
Yeah. Yep.
But
Yep. I wouldn't rule it out. That's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely possession. Yeah. I mean, and
hmm,
it happens. These friends of mine, they handle these types of things. So
hmm,
they personally have seen it happen, and they've worked these demons out of people.
hmm,
I wouldn't go as far as saying they do an exorcism. I don't think that's exactly what they do because it's not church related, but they definitely do call out the demons. And
hmm.
I guess an important part of that, so I don't know that much about it. And I think in some way I'm kind of glad I don't, is that to get the name of the demon is very important. So
Yes,
that's part of the
I've
ritual.
had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, is to have the name, have somehow get the name of the demon. Then you can get rid of it and bind it and
yeah.
get, you know, get it out of the person.
Now, it made me wonder when you said about when you were in the Lizzie Borden house and you got shoved, if there's something actually tied to that house, and that maybe if even entered her and sort of made her do these horrible things, and you know,
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. And here's the interesting thing, and I never knew this history, and I've lived in Massachusetts most of my years. The house next door to the Lizzie Borden house was actually one of her family members, if I have the story straight. I want to say it was a cousin or nephew cousin lived in that house. and she was married. She had 2 children, and she ended up murdering her 2 babies by
Wow.
drowning them in the well in the basement of the house. And supposedly, they find out after the fact that there is a water system under these houses that they were tapping into, I guess, basically the same well. So it makes you wonder, David. Good
Mm,
question, because when I learned that, I instantly had this feeling like, okay, so this isn't a random thing here. Now there's almost a pattern. You've got 2 people in the same family living next door to each other, and they both kill 2 people.
mm.
So yeah, it was interesting to learn that little hidden fact about the Lizzie Borden house
Yeah, it does make
was
you
the
wonder,
neighbors.
doesn't it? Yeah, because I mean, it's not normal behavior, is it, to go and kill your children like
Oh
that?
my
It's
God. And
terrible.
they were little ones. They were just like two
Yeah,
and four, I want to
it's so sad,
say.
it's horrible. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. That was a shocking thing to learn. It truly was.
Yeah. Anyway, I suppose we ought to. I mean, because not all the paranormal is horrible, is it? I mean, as you know,
Yeah.
it's only just mostly it's the Hollywood side of things that makes
Oh
the
yeah.
paranormal look frightening and scary, and all these things that happen in
Oh
films.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's as you
Uh-huh.
know, it's not like that.
It
Normally,
fills
like
theaters.
yeah,
House statements.
people that are on the other side are really just like you and me, and
Yeah, yeah, that's been my experience. Absolutely. They're there, and they're always around us. And yeah, I don't have fear of that. I truly now don't fear death,
hmm,
because I just know it's going to another dimension. And I believe that the soul lives on. So there's always a part of us that's encoded within our soul, each incarnation. And so when we leave one incarnation, chances are you'll reincarnate. Everybody talks about soul lessons. There's that. And that there are times I believe that we travel as a soul family, so that, and I know for a fact that my father and I have had lifetimes together,
hmm,
previous lifetimes. And so, we had a little friction around that. And, but as souls, we can travel in groups, and we'll agree to incarnate together to work out a certain soul lesson, an issue. And yeah, so I don't think, I think we all live on in some way
hmm,
or another,
hmm.
in another dimension.
Well, you probably believe like I do that you feel connections with people, and I think there's a you feel a lot of linking of the spirit.
Yep.
You get drawn to them, don't you? And I don't mean in a romantic way, although
Mm,
that does happen as well. But
yeah.
you just feel like you like that person instantly
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And
Yeah, and that's what I kind of think of a soul connection or a past
mm,
life connection. Like, you're sensing who that person is at a soul level.
yeah,
And sometimes there can be recall on a past life, that you might have snippets of remembering who that person was in your past life. And a lot of times, they'll say that, your soul partner is like your beautiful wife, that I wouldn't doubt for an instance that you're soulmates.
mm,
So, there's that lovely piece of it that
mm. Well,
these
that's the
people.
funny thing, like Jill and I have said, when we got together sort of about 11 years ago now, after about a year or so, it felt like we've been together all our lives.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
Yep.
strange, as if all that past just didn't matter. It's a really strange. It's a strange thing, and we still feel that
Yeah.
close now. So
See, yeah, that's where I think absolutely past life connection, soul connection,
yeah, no,
which
it's
is
lovely.
lovely.
I mean, you talk about out of body experiences as well on your sheet of paper here. What I've got in front of me. It's, that's
Yeah. My
so.
cheat notes.
Well, it helps me. It's good for me. So I mean, it saves me having to dive into my brain to try and find things to talk about. But
I love
I
it.
mean, there's always plenty to talk about anyway. But
Yeah.
I mean, do you,
Oh,
do you
good.
actually do you actually remember a lot of your out of body
You
experiences?
know,
Yeah.
I do, David. And what's interesting about those, they both happened in my childhood. The first one, God, happened. I was like maybe 5. I was very young, and we were at our house in Brockton. I was on the swing set, and I was laying on my stomach on a swing and just kind of going back and forth, when all of a sudden I'm flipped out of my body and I'm looking down at myself. And I had the clear thought, and mind you, I'm 5, but I had the thought when I was up there looking down at myself, I thought to myself, oh, you've got a good, healthy body in this lifetime. Now I'm 5. So
Mm,
that was
mm,
odd,
mm.
very odd for me. And then the second time happened when I was probably about 10 or 11. And I was just old enough that my parents allowed me to walk up to this little corner general store that was like maybe a mile away. And I walked up with a neighbor girlfriend, and we're walking right in front of our elementary school. And as we crossed over, the walkway stopped, and then there was the driveway to the school, and then the walkway started again. The minute I stepped off the walkway to cross the opening into the road to the school, again, I flip out of my body. And this is so distinct. Every time I tell this story, I can picture exactly what happened. I'm way up above looking down. I can see myself talking to Maureen. We're continuing to walk. I'm watching us and from up above. And then the minute I step back up on the sidewalk, I come whooshing back down into my body. But the interesting thing is, I couldn't hear, or at least I don't recall hearing us talking. I could see us talking, but I couldn't hear it. So, and it's funny, since then, I've had conversations with others who have had out of body experience. And I guess that's somewhat of a common thing to happen, is that you'll have the out of body experience, but you don't always have the sound piece to it.
Mm.
Um, so that was interesting. So again, 2 out of body experiences as a child. I since have had others, but I found it interesting that they started when I was a kid.
Mm. I mean, it kind of suggests that a near-death experience is a bit different to an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Because you weren't obviously near death then, were you?
No, no. And it's interesting, when I came back in my body with the second time when I was 10, I could feel myself come in, and I
Mm.
stumbled. And I can remember my friend Maureen going, "Are you okay?" And I kind of like, "Yeah, okay." And I felt weird for a couple seconds, and then we kept walking and talking, but I had full recall of that happening. Yeah. It's very strange.
So, I mean, was that your own experience, or have you had several since then?
I've had
And
some others.
can you control it? That's I guess that's the question
No, not that
I'm
I've
asking.
learned anyway. I don't know if others are out there that can kind of, control that, but I know. And they happen like that. Like,
Mm,
honest to God, woof. And then all of a sudden you're just looking down. At least the 2 I had as a kid. I was like, oh my God,
mm,
and then to have the recall of it, I think is interesting, because you would think
mm.
as a kid, you probably would just forget about it. But I never forgot about either one of those experiences.
Yeah, you do remember those types, I know.
Yeah, vividly.
Yeah, I can tell you, I had an experience when I was in my cot. Basically, I mean, I've said this story on this. If you've heard this before on the
Oh,
show, but
no.
not you. I'm talking about our
Oh, yeah.
audience.
Oh, yeah.
um, I was in my cot and I remember screaming out that a purple mist came swirling into the room, swirling all the way over to me, and it scared me to death. I was only maybe a year and a half, 2 years old, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. And I'm
Interesting.
screaming in baby language. My father came into the room and saying, "What you look? Yeah, what's the matter?" And
Oh
I'm
my
trying to say
God.
to him about this purple mist that I could still see, and
Wow.
that's always stayed with me. And it came out and it was swirled around the room and then went back out the door again.
Oh my
Now
God.
I've always kind of wondered what that purple mist meant. Um,
Yikes. Wow. Wow. But the fact that you can remember
I can
that at like
remember it, yeah,
a year
and
and a half.
it wasn't a
Wow.
dream because I
Yep.
was actually awake and I remember my father coming in. And I did
Oh,
actually say to him when I was in my teens, "Do you remember that time when I was a baby?" And I remember, oh, yeah, because it always stayed with me. He said, "Yeah, I can remember that. Well, you're talking about this purple mist." And
oh my gosh.
but as I say, I don't know if the color had a meaning or anything.
It's interesting that it's purple. You almost want to think that the color has meaning. Interesting. Huh.
Mm.
Well, and look at you with a purple shirt on.
It's yeah. I think it's probably the camera, but
Purple.
it's like a movie color, yeah.
Maybe
But
purple has meaning for you.
yeah, I actually do. I do like the color purple as it happens, but
Isn't that funny? I've never heard anybody talk,
no.
share like
I mean,
that. Wow.
all I've got a theory that when I was at that, I never knew my grandfathers, either of them. And I think one of my grandfathers did actually die around about that time. So whether he was coming to see me or something, I don't know. Um,
Interesting.
but
Very
also,
well could have been. Hmm.
also in the house where we were living, it was a rented house living in London actually, and apparently around about that time, the lady that we used to rent of, who used to live downstairs, she died around about that time. So maybe she was having a last look around or something, you know.
Interesting.
Maybe it was nothing to do
Okay.
with me at all, you know. But
Yeah.
but
Oh,
it's
wow.
it was always an experience that I remembered. So I know what you mean about when you always remember as a child, because that's always stayed with me, you know.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and I find it remarkable as young as you were, it stayed with
yeah,
you and
yeah.
you have the full recall. That's
Anyway,
wild.
that's me again. I'm sorry. I'm stealing the show. This is your show, not
No,
mine.
I'm
um,
sharing these stories because it makes me feel like, okay, I'm not the only one out there having these
well, yeah, this
experiences.
is it. I mean, you do think you're a bit weird, don't you? Sort of when you think back on
Yeah.
things. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that whole thing with my grandfather. Oh, I should share with you an interesting end to that story. Is that when, fast forward like maybe a week after he died, we had his wake. And my parents allowed us kids to go. And I'll never forget walking into the funeral home. I'd never been in one, had no idea what was going to happen. And I walk in, and everybody's in the room ahead of me. And I see my grandfather in the casket.
Well,
Well, of
mm,
course, I had talked to him just the night before he died. So I started screaming. We called him Grampy. I started screaming, Grampy's not dead. He's alive. I was talking to him. And of course, my parents were like, oh God, what the
yeah, I
heck?
can imagine.
So literally, my father dragged me out. I kept screaming, he's alive. He's not dead. And they had to bring me back to my grandparents' house because I just got so upset. But,
Mm,
if you're a little kid and your grandfather just visited you in the TV, in your mind, he could still be alive. So,
yeah.
yeah, that was strange.
Oh, that's quite interesting as well. The fact that you saw him in the TV, was there any meaning to that? Was there any?
I've had some people be very interested in that fact because now with technology coming, so, fast and
Mm,
forward here, that spirit is manipulating. I don't know if you've ever had an experience. I have, where spirit will manipulate things, or my guides will manipulate technology for me. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. But to go back to when I was a kid, that was like, TVs were still big
yeah.
things, on a TV stand. And so even back then, he was savvy enough in transitioning into spirit that he manipulated himself into that TV, which is something when you think about it. So I always feel that he's just a powerful soul, that he could maneuver that.
Mm. They do seem to. I mean, often you see it on some of the ghost programs as well that they do turn lights on and off and things like that.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I've
Oh
been on
yeah.
some ghost hunts and you see the torches going on and off to
Yep.
questions,
And
as
it's a
to,
way to
which
communicate.
which is something quite amazing to me. The first time I saw that, I thought, I can't believe this. Like the
Yeah.
maglite torches, they'd left a few sort of scattered around, and they were sort of asking questions to them, and they were actually
I find that so
responding.
amazing.
You know,
Mhm. It's a
and
way of communicating.
it wasn't fixed because you could either turn
Yeah.
them on or off. So,
Well, what's interesting about light, David, is they do use light a lot.
mm,
And I know for me, I am just, I don't know what it is, but for instance, I'll drive down a road that has street lights on either side. This has happened more than once. And all of a sudden, every single street light will flash as I'm driving down the road. And I'm thinking, oh
oh
my
wow,
God. I'm kind of thanking everybody, going,
oh
wow, this
wow,
is a nice, welcome down the road. And there'll be times when I'll walk into a room and a light will either come on or go off,
wow.
or flash on and off, or I've gone to turn the knob on a lamp and the bulb bursts. So it's funny. I learned through someone else, there's a term for people who kind of have this manipulation of electricity, and it's called a slider. And I've never heard of that before, but when I Googled it, I was like, whoa, whoa. So pretty much everything they listed, I has happened for me, as
Mm.
far as manipulating electricity. It's very interesting. So again, I have no idea. Although they do say, if vibrationally, if you vibrate at a higher level, and I have been told I do, I can feel that. I did some extensive training when I journeyed to Guatemala to do a quantum evasive healing. And what we were doing is we were trained to elevate our vibrational level through very, very involved breath work. And so we were technically this is back in the day, working in fourth and fifth dimensional energies. It was mind-blowing stuff. And so I think because of that, I vibrate at a higher rate, and that tends to it has something to do with the electricity, that vibrational exchange for some reason.
Mm.
So it's strange.
I did notice that as you were talking, all your lights are going on and off behind you. No, I'm joking.
Really?
It's not. No, I'm joking.
Well, I told you earlier on the show that I've done shows, and there are funny things that happen with the lighting in my
Yeah, no, I'm
background.
joking. Sorry, it's not sense of humor as well.
I love it.
No, I'll tell you what, when we were teenagers, we used to do seances and things, and we'd always have a candle. And we've often seen the candle flame go right up, or right down to almost going out, and then coming right back up again. I mean, whether it was some sort of a funny candle, I don't know, but that happened quite often. You know,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was always too much of a scaredy cat to do a seance.
yeah.
We did the Ouija board a little bit. I wasn't too comfortable using that. Even to this day, I won't use an Ouija board or any of
No,
that.
a funny thing is, I'm a little bit worried, yeah, about using it in my own home. I don't mind doing it in someone else's
Oh,
home,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
but
Be careful.
or if you go
Mhm.
on a ghost hunt or whatever, they do it in there, but they do open and close it properly. So,
Okay, good. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's important. And that's what I think a lot of times what happens is, my personal belief is that, you're opening a portal when
Mm,
you're doing a seance, when you're doing an Ouija board type of thing, and you don't know what's going to come through.
mm.
So there have been some, of course, Hollywood exaggerates it all,
Oh
but
yeah.
you are opening a portal
Mm.
to the spirit realm.
I mean,
So
when we used to play around with it as teen, and we were playing around with it, obviously in the evenings, we never did anything like opening and closing it properly. I mean, really, we didn't even have a Ouija board. We used to just sort of cut out numbers and things and put them around the table. But
hey,
we had but some experiences we had was quite amazing, really, as kids, or as teenagers. Um, and sometimes that glass would be really spinning around that table, really you can really feel
really?
the power, yeah, going round and actually going right round the edge of the table, trying to knock the cards off the table and things like that,
God. Oh,
really
wow.
amazing.
You
But
had something coming through there.
well,
Wow.
yeah, but I mean, did that affect me? I don't know. Did anything attach itself to me? I don't know. But I'll say I'm still here. I'm still living, and I'm
There you go.
whether but we did have some strange experiences, I must say. Anyway, well, let's moving on. You mentioned about levitation experiences. That's
Oh boy. That
yeah.
that was a big experience, David. And you know what? To this day, I try to understand what was going on. I'll share the story. It's I hear myself tell it and I think, okay, really, how in God's name did any of that happen? But it happened. And so there was one night, this was in my other house. I'm in bed and I hear, and I'm, in a sleep state. I hear this most stunning, stunning harp music. I mean, to the point that I'm in a sleep and I hear the music and I think to myself, oh my God, did I cross over and go to heaven? I mean, it was otherworldly, but it was definitely, I identified it as a harp. It was just so gorgeous. And I can remember I opened my eyes thinking, all right, did I maybe leave the TV on and it went to some kind of weird music channel? Nope. I opened my eyes and the TV is off. I'm hearing the heart music. And when I opened my eyes, I could not move. Total sleep paralysis. That is one of the most scariest things I've ever experienced, is the sleep paralysis. Oh God, was that horrible. But what I realized was, not only am I hearing the heart music, I am levitated up in the bed. And I am surrounded by this incredibly beautiful, bright golden light. And then all of a sudden, if you picture yourself laying down, your head is pointing towards the headboard, and coming through the crown of my head, which felt like it was coming through from outside of the house, it was coming through the headboard, going into my head, was this vibrational energy just rushing through my body, to the point where, now mind you, I'm levitated, I can't move, but yet this energy coming through me is shaking me because it's so strong. And I can remember, in my mind, like screaming because I couldn't talk. Stop, this is too much. What is going on here? Stop. And it did subside. I keep always saying they, and David, I have no clue who they were, but this energy is being shot through me. And so the dog is asleep on the bed, which I found interesting. But then all of a sudden, I rolled my eyes over, because I rolled my eyes to see that the dog was on the bed. I put my eyes over so I could see the window that's next to my bed. As soon as I did that, this is very fantastic. This little being, it was a leprechaun. I know that sounds just ridiculous, but he was a leprechaun. I could draw him, and I drew him in the past. Bright red hair, beard. He's in a striped shirt. He's in striped overalls. He has these little shoes that curl up at the toes, and he comes through a pane in my window. So it was like a 6/6 panes. So it was about this wide. He comes through, not that he breaks through the glass, but he comes through into the room through the pane, drops onto the floor. Well, here's the best part. The dog sees him. So as soon as that thing jumps into the room, my sleep paralysis stops. I'm back down in the bed. The music stops. Whatever was surrounding me stops. The energy stops. The dog is going crazy, and she's barking. Well, this thing jumps in the room and starts running through my bedroom. The dog jumps off the bed, chases it through my house, only to have it disappear, because I get out of the bed too. I'm like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? And only to have this little being, whatever it was, disappear. Dog couldn't find it. I didn't see it. But I tell this story, and every time I do, I feel validated in a way that the dog saw this thing. She saw it. So it wasn't like, I'm in dreamland and I'm seeing this leprechaun. I mean, it was full 3D. It was remarkable, because in your mind, he looked like you would picture a leprechaun. And I know, people, oh, well, you kind of made it up then, all the storybooks tell you what a leprechaun looks like. But I mean, it was 3D, and it jumped in the room and the dog saw it. So that's my argument to, kind of confirm that, okay, something happened here. I don't know what. And the other thing, David, over this goes back a few years, I've had a chance to think about this. And I think, dimensionally, I think in whatever state I was in a different dimensional state. And I think this being, the fairies, the leprechauns are all in the elemental realm, that there was some type of a portal opening with whatever I was experiencing happening, that allowed this little creature to come into my dimension. And then to have it just all stop, and then I'm back down on the bed, but I will never, as long as I live, forget that harp music. Stunning. And there was one other woman I told this story to, and she's had her experiences kind of like mine. And she said, "You heard the harp music?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh my God, you're the first person that has told me they've heard this harp music." And I said, "Yeah." And I'm describing and that's exactly what she heard. So she had an experience where she heard the harp music. She didn't have the rest of my experience, but she too said it was an otherworldly sound,
Mm.
but so I to this day, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'll never forget it. And it's interesting. I feel that energy being shot through my body, I think they were working on me. And I do vibrate really on a high end, a high side. And I think it's experiences like that has helped to elevate that vibrational level that I'm at now.
Mm.
It's the only thing I can think of because it is one of the weird ones,
Yeah, I mean, I've
to
got to
say the
say,
least.
if you'd have told me a story of an elf or a goblin or whatever 2 years ago, or as you described it, what was it,
A leprechaun.
a leprechaun? Yeah, which are all kind of the same thing, aren't they? I'd have probably thought,
They
oh,
are.
you're a bit, but I recently, well, a couple of years ago, about a year or so ago now, I met a lady called Katie Ray. We've got over here, and she's kind of a fairy leprechaun expert and elves.
Ooh.
So
Ooh, I should write her name down.
Katie Ray, yeah, it's R A
R-A.
R A E, yeah. She's on Facebook, but
Oh,
and she gave a presentation talking about fairies and goblins and all that type of thing, and she
yeah.
explained that they're not all sort of like the Disney characters. Some of them are quite nasty, some of the and but
I believe that.
she's had quite a lot of experience with them anyway, and
Oh,
I'll have to
interesting.
try and put you in touch with her because
Thank you,
I
David.
think
I would love that because this is such a weird experience, but it's a very vivid one. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was dreaming. I mean,
mm,
I was awake, and then to have the dog see it,
yeah.
to me, validates the whole thing.
I mean, I
So,
thought they were all just like fairy stories, like you say, a couple of years ago. But her presentation, she made it so come alive, so believably, and you
yeah.
could tell that she wasn't sort of just pulling the wool over your eyes. It's because
So she's very credible.
she's very credible. Yeah, that's the word, very credible. So yeah, I'll put you in touch with her because I'm sure
Thank
you'll.
you. I would love that. I'd love for her to just hear my story and
That's
I don't know if
right.
she
Yeah, I'm
can
sure
tell
she'd
it.
be fascinated with it, and she'd probably tell you a few of her own.
Yeah. Oh, good. Even better.
But yeah, I mean that's brilliant. That vibrational thing you were mentioning about as well. I remember having a very vivid dream a few years back now, probably about 10 years ago. And funny enough, in this dream, I woke up in a start, and I remember an echoing voice saying, "It's all in the vibrations." And
Oh, oh, it is.
so it must. I may well have been doing some of this astral travel like you were talking
Yeah.
about, and I was being
Yep.
given some information. You know,
Yep.
it's probably
I would
technical.
trust that. I always say to people, and I have to remind my own self, trust that intuition. If that's your gut feeling, I
Mm.
go with that. Yeah, but
I mean,
hey,
at the time, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, because it was like
yeah,
someone was laughing. So it's all in the vibrations, and it was laughing,
yeah.
and that's when I woke up,
Oh
sort of
yeah.
thing.
Yep.
As if,
Yep.
so that must have had some sort of a meaning.
It definitely is all about vibration. And for me, sound and vibration. And certain healing modalities, those are key factors
Mm,
in, some of the healing work that I've trained in
mm, mm,
is just that, the vibrational
mm.
sound.
And when you mentioned about him coming through the window as well, obviously we know that nothing is solid, so there's
Yeah,
nothing to stop things
exactly.
vibrating through something, which is
Exactly.
kind of what
Well,
teleportation and things like that will be in the future.
exactly. And we hear of the stories of people being abducted.
Mm,
They're going through their homes. How does that happen? You're
yeah.
going through your roof or your
Well, our
ceiling or
friends Philip and Ronnie Kinsella will tell that story
exactly.
about being vibrated through the roof.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
I know I woke up to add a little short story about the levitation thing. In fact, I told this to Ronnie and Philip because I thought if anybody would know about this, they would.
mm,
Is I woke up in the middle of I'm out of my bedroom. I'm not in my bed. I'm in the corner of a den room that I have off the kitchen, very open floor plan. And I am elevated up. I'm being held as though I'm literally held by unseen hands. And I'm at the ceiling. So my head is at the ceiling. I'm suspended there in the corner of this room. And the freakiest thing about it was, again, the paralysis. Oh God, I hate that. I can remember the way I was facing, I could look into my bedroom, and the freakiest thing was my bed was empty. So here I am up near the ceiling. Now,
Mm.
I can't tell you, was I being abducted and did I wake up in the middle of it? I don't know. And then again, with the sleep paralysis, you could only talk in your head. You couldn't voice
Mm.
anything.
Mm.
So I can remember screaming for God, just God help me, God help me. And then I thought of my very powerful teacher. His name was Xenos, Xenos, and I screamed his name. And the minute I screamed his name, it all stopped. I'm back in my bed. I realized something happened, but that I'm now back in my bed. So I felt a little more safe and not so crazy. The sleep paralysis was gone. So I must have fallen back asleep. But the next morning, I had absolute full recall of that happening. And it creeped me out, something fierce. So I, to this day, do not know exactly what that was all about. But again, that the paralysis, God, that is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, it does sound quite scary because I mean, something like that, you think, oh, is it going to be permanent, doesn't it? Well, while you're
Oh,
probably
yeah.
while you're in
Oh
it, yes.
my God. Yeah, yeah. Will I stay this way? Will I come out of it? Yeah, yeah. That to me is, boy, I could do without those experiences for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you're given an example of what it's actually like to be like that as well. You imagine people that
Well, yeah.
are actually like that, and
It,
yeah,
it puts a whole perspective on,
yeah,
someone who, God bless them, is in that state of paralysis in a permanent basis, and all they can do is move their eyes.
mm,
Like what happened with Stephen Hawkins,
mm,
that dreadful disease he had, and his condition there towards the end. Yeah, I can't imagine.
yeah. Especially if you've been a fit human being, or,
Yeah.
like Christopher Reeve, for instance, the
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Superman actor. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
just a small a horse accident, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
basically
It was.
ruined his life. Yeah,
Yeah. And he was a young man too. And what a
yeah,
shame.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any recollections of past lives and reincarnation?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And,
mean, it goes with all the thing about out of body experiences and everything, doesn't it?
well, it's funny. I mentioned my teacher who came on my path in 2015. In this lifetime, he was living in Australia. He is a very powerful soul. And he took me on as a student. We had a mutual friend, and I have 5 letters from him that are absolutely stunning. I've kind of got them here near me. And he would confirm for me past lifetimes I had only if I had some recall of the past life, or I was having visions of this past life. And then he would confirm these lifetimes, but he would never up front say, oh, yeah, you had a lifetime here,
Mm,
there, and wherever. So it was interesting how I learned of some of these lifetimes. And then again, some of this, what I call sacred travel that I was guided to take. It's when I'm in some of these places that I will have recall of these lifetimes. And then I would come back from these trips and I would write, Xenos a letter because he was kind of off grid. And our mutual friend would transcribe my letters to him. He was going blind at the time. And he would write me back through her. And he would let me know, yes, that was a past lifetime for you and XYZ. And sometimes he'll say who I was in that past life. It's remarkable because had it not been for him being on my path at the time he was, I would not have known, or connect the dots, when
mm,
I'm at these sacred places. Um, you know, one of the experiences that stands out to me is when I was at Avebury. is what usually happens to me. I kind of have this guided urge to leave my group and just go off on my own. And that's usually when I'll have these ridiculous experiences. And so I'm walking down. You've probably been to Avebury, have you?
I was there just 2 weeks ago, actually.
Oh, that's right. I remember the pictures. Oh, perfect. So this is a good story for you because you'll be able to place it. So I'm walking down what they call the alleyway or the highway of stones. And there's still, you could see that there's, like a walkway, roadway, and there are the
Mm.
stones on either side of this alleyway. And I am drawn to this one particular stone. And I go over to it, and mind you, again, I'm just kind of guided. I go to not the side of the stone that's facing the alleyway, but I go to the back of it. And I stand fully against it, my whole body just fully against the stone. And as soon as I did that, it was like I had an outer body experience, or a time slip. I don't know how to describe it, but I am now seeing myself. I'm like not me. I'm somebody else. I'm looking through somebody else's eyes. I look down. I'm in this green long dress. I've got long red hair. It's very windy. Everything's blowing. And I could hear a lot of people and sounds around me. And I can remember looking, and I walk into this procession. And I'm part of the procession. I become part of the procession. And it's a whole, and the time frame looked, gosh, it looked very, very, very ancient time frame. And all the stones are there. It was remarkable. It was at night, a whole procession of what I knew to be priests and priestesses, and carrying torches. And a whole crowd of us are coming down this alleyway. And there are people who were placed to stand against these stones, just like what I was standing, and with their backs against the stones. And these priests and priestesses would put their hands out like this, so that when they came to somebody who was standing against a stone, they were emanating this energy, healing energy. And the energy was coming through the stones, through these people. So whoever was standing at the stone for healing was getting the stone healing them, as well as the priest or priestess healing them. It was remarkable to see. And and it was like a glimpse. It was like this little glimpse of that lifetime and that healing
Mm.
procession is what I call it. So when I get home, of course, I'm writing it up. And I had other experiences in England that were like mind blowing. But that one was like, whoa, because it was like I went back into that life is the best way I can describe it. And so he wrote me back to say that, yes, you did have a lifetime there. It was, I don't know if you used the term prehistoric Britain. It was very ancient time ago, and that the stones were used as healing stones, and that they literally were charged. And to this day, they still hold
Mm.
powerful energies.
Mm.
And that was the way the procession worked, is that we were working with the stones to heal people. And it was remarkable. I mean, he validated what I saw, and that, yes, that's how they were using the stones. And I just, I guess I also, had a past life during the Roman Britain phase. I was a Druid priestess during that phase when, Rome was ending their part of the of their presence in Britain.
Mm.
And then I also had a lifetime at the last phase of Stonehenge. And I tell you, when I was at Stonehenge, wow. And again, David, it was all about vibration and sound to get those stones to move, to get
Mm.
that whole formation is what I was shown. And he confirmed that as well, that was a lifetime. So I've had these past lifetimes. And so I look back on some of this stuff I've learned over the years, is that it's almost like no happen chance that in this lifetime I'm a healer. I'm tapping into some of the things I was able to do in past lifetimes, I've brought forward. Or guided to learn certain things,
Mm.
like getting my Egyptian healing rods. Again, past life. But as a healer seems to be the key for me in this lifetime. A seer and a healer. I've been a clairvoyant in many lifetimes, I guess. So yeah, so it's been remarkable. I've had these past life glimpses in the most remarkable of places. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when I was with Avebury, I was actually lucky enough to be with Andrew Collins and Hugh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, I enjoyed that post of yours in the
and Hugh
pictures.
Newman. Yeah, they're often seen on Ancient Aliens. So it's the funny thing is that Andrew Collins lives about a couple of miles away from me here. So
Oh, no kidding. How fun.
yeah, it's great. But also, you
Oh,
mentioned about Stonehenge. Maria Wheatley. Do you know her as well?
yes. She was at the conference. I didn't get to meet her,
Oh, she's
but
brilliant. That's yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of her wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, yeah, she's definitely into the. Oh, yeah, of course she was. She was at. She did a talk, didn't she? I've forgotten that actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know where to go with this now. I mean, you mentioned about these strange shadow beings as well on this piece of paper. Now, what was
Yeah.
your
Oh,
experience with those?
oh my gosh. That was
I mean, we do
something.
hear about these shadow beings quite a lot, don't we? You
Yeah.
know.
Well, Malcolm Robinson wrote a book. In
Hmm.
fact, my encounter I'm going to share with you was featured in his book. I was traveling with friends. In fact, friends at the time I had done a lot of travel with. I first traveled to Egypt with them is William Henry of Ancient Aliens
Hmm.
and his wife Claire. So I've traveled, gosh, Egypt, Italy, England. I've done a lot of France, a lot of travels over the years. This goes back a few years now with them. And we were okay, my mind just went blank. That's terrible. What did you ask me? The
About the shadow people we were mentioning,
Thank you,
when
shadow
you hear a
people.
lot. That's all
Yes,
right.
my mind went
It
way
happens
up.
to me all the time. Don't worry about it.
Oh my goodness, that's bad. So thank you. No, and a group of us that had traveled together in Egypt, we met in Nashville where William and Claire live, and we kind of, regrouped. And they had friends who had a farm up in the Black Hills of
Dakota.
yeah, of Tennessee,
Yeah.
and they had a beautiful big farm up there called Butterfly Hill Farm. And we go, and I just instantly felt this amazing connection with the land. I mean, I
Mm.
felt this land was powerful, and I was feeling and picking up on a lot of Native American spirit around
Mm.
me. And so at one point, some of the folks on this trip knew that I could communicate to spirit and that I've had these crazy experiences. So we went off to explore out in the woods, is where it all started. And there were all these incredible old trails throughout the woods that surround this beautiful farm. So we go off on a little expedition, and we're well deep into the woods. It was me and two other gentlemen. And all of a sudden, this I could hear. See, I can physically hear spirit. And I hear this trampling of footprints, like an army is running through the woods. And I can remember I stopped and I stepped off the path because they were coming down this path, a whole group. And then when I looked, I could see in spirit that it was an entire group of Native American men
Wow.
who are running through these woods. And they're using these really unique chirping sounds to communicate to each other, those in the back to those in the front, and they're going back and forth. And so the two guys I'm with could see me seeing this, but they're going, "What's going on? What do you hear?" And I'm kind of live talking, telling them what I'm seeing, and it was remarkable. And so we go, so what happened? They go through, and I could literally feel, David, I could feel the rush of them coming by me. It was remarkable. And so we come back, and of course, they're all of us. They're telling everybody what happened, and I'm just kind of holding back, going, "God, I'm not sure what the heck happened." And the owners of the farm did say that this is, Native American land that, shared a bit of the history, and that there were, groups of them that lived on this land and whatnot. So we go in the house, and they're putting out this lovely spread for dinner. And so, the sun's starting to set, but it's still light out. And we're all in this great room of theirs in the house. And I'm standing, I've, got a glass of wine standing. This friend of mine, Loretta, comes, stands next to me. She can see, she's a medium, she can see. And I'm just standing there, just kind of enjoying the atmosphere. And I look over, and along this one whole wall that's right across from where I'm standing are all these shadow people. And it's a whole group of them. And that's kind of what's unusual about this sighting is usually you see one or maybe two. You don't usually see a group. Well, this was a whole group. And I knew them intuitively to be Native American because you could tell they had like blankets. You could just tell they were wrapped in something. And they were in a group. But I never got the feeling, excuse me, that they were malevolent. They felt very peaceful. So as I'm standing there realizing what I'm seeing, because they're moving, and I'm going, oh my God. And I look over at Loretta. She looks at me, and I said to her, are you seeing these shadow people? She's like, yep. So again, the confirmation. And so we watched them, and we were the only two that could see them. And and I said to her, do you get a sense that they're evil, or we should be afraid of them, or what do you feel? And she's like, no, I don't feel that at all. She's, I feel like they're almost like the guardians of the land. And I said, that's exactly what I was thinking. So they felt very benevolent. They were just a wonderful gathering. And so I told my friend Claire this, and she's like, you have to tell, so then she brought me over, and I told the owners what happened, and Loretta came too, and she confirmed, and we shared what we saw, and they were blown over because they had been seeing the shadow people too.
Wow.
And they were nervous, and they were worried that they were evil spirits of some kind. And, from what we could feel and pick up on them and what we saw, we didn't feel that at all. So it was a wonderful, in a way, a confirmation for them. They're not crazy. They are seeing shadow people, but these are very caring beings that are watching over the farm, and they had animals, and it was a beautiful, beautiful farm. And the sunsets were stunning because they were way up in a mountain, right on a mountain ridge. It was just gorgeous. And, so the Native American spirits are there on that land, and they're still there guarding the land. They're overlooking that farm. And it was really a cool experience to see a whole group of them. And honest to God, to see them just walking by on this wall, it was remarkable. I'll never forget that. That was cool.
So do you feel that shadow beings may be just that? They're like guardians of whatever position. If you see a shadow being in a house, for instance, maybe they're guarding that house. That's
That could be.
that's their chosen profession, if you like, in the spirit world.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting to me, David, and I don't really know the answer to this, but I wonder sometimes, are shadow people, are they souls that haven't fully crossed over, and that
That's what I was wondering. Either they're either that, or they've
yeah.
actually got this chosen job that they're doing.
I think so. Yeah. But then again, there are, ghosts that stay attached to a certain place. And you can see them more, like they'll appear, whereas a shadow person, I don't understand why they always stay just as a shadow, I guess, is what I wonder. Why can't they materialize a little bit more? Or if that's just they've evolved to a point where maybe they're mostly crossed over, but they're in this little in-between area where they're just appearing as a shadow.
Well, they're obviously vibrating on a different plane, no doubt.
Yeah.
They're probably just outside of our field of vision.
Exactly.
What I mean, their vibration plane. Yeah. It's interesting, very
so.
interesting, though, isn't it? But I mean, I've never been lucky enough to see anything like that.
Well, but in Malcolm's book, and I've talked to Malcolm over the years, is that there are definitely some people who are having nasty experiences with some of this phenomena
Oh, right.
too.
Okay.
So yeah, But my experience was not that. It was lovely. It was a confirmation that they're there and that they're just overseeing the land and the
Mm,
family that live on the farm. Yeah.
mm.
And the
Oh,
animals.
you mentioned Malcolm Robinson. I'm in his book as well. It was an incident we happened in Nottingham about a stone, about a stone.
Oh, like what?
Yeah, we were in the galleries of justice. I think I don't know if they call it the justice galleries or something now, but they're they've got um dungeons kind of thing, like prisons downstairs, right down under the, because it's like courtrooms you see on the top floors,
Oh,
but they've
okay.
got like a prison set part of it underneath. Malcolm and I were actually walking from the basement up the stairs. There were stone steps. We're walking up the stairs, and as we were coming almost to the top, there was a sharp crack on the floor behind us. Now there was nobody behind us, and we thought, what the hell was that? And it was dark as well. And Malcolm got his, I think he got his phone out or something. It was
Oh
shining
yeah,
down
there you go.
the, and there was a stone laying on one of the steps. He picked it
Oh,
up, and we can only assume that it must have been that. I mean, we don't know. I don't know for sure, but it felt warm as well. So
oh,
whether that
interesting.
was an apport or something, but that's in the stories in the book. Um, I mean,
Interesting.
all I can say is if it was that stone and somebody had thrown it. No, normally if a stone is thrown on concrete, you'll hear it bouncing. But this was just one sharp crack noise, and so
Interesting.
that story's in I think it's in Paranormal Case Files Volume 3, I think it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I think I'm in volume 4.
Yeah, you have to look it up. I'm not sure if I got that one. Yeah, oh, I've got that one.
Funny.
Yeah. No, I have got that one.
That's a
But
riot. I'll share with you a quick story about you bring up the stone thing.
yeah.
Um, Yikes. So again, I'm in my other house. I'm in the bedroom of that house. Well, I had a friend who had heard me speak about some of the incredible things that were happening at that house. So she wanted to kind of feel the house for herself. She wanted to come in and get a sense of, maybe what could be going on and pick up something herself. And she was one of these people who worked as a healer and with selenite. So she had these big slabs of selenite that were like this big. They weighed easily 15 to 20 pounds a slab. And she said, I'm going to bring over these slabs of selenite and maybe, we can sit on them and meditate and maybe call forth some of whatever's happening in your house. I'm like, okay, fine. So she comes over. So I had, a lot of activity had happened in the bedroom. And that's where I had that experience. I told you about the levitation and the
Hmm.
leprechaun and all that. So she was intrigued. So she gave me, I picked out a piece of selenite. She had a piece of selenite. Mind you, honest to God, they were like 15 to 20 pounds. They were heavy. So we go walking into my bedroom. My other dog that I lost, Bella, at the time was there with us. And she started acting really weird. Like she started circling around us
Hmm.
and panting. And it was very odd behavior for her. And I thought, oh God, what's going on here? So as we're standing in the bedroom, we're both holding our selenite. My friend put down her selenite on my bed. And I had one of those foam mattresses that, the selenite just literally sank into the foam mattress. And then I'm standing there with mine. I'm going, well, I'm going to put mine down too. These are heavy. So I put mine down right next to her. So mind you, both these selenite slabs are in the middle of my bed, sunken into, you could see them indent into the mattress. So we're standing near them. We continue to talk, and the dog continues to circle and get more upset. And I had my back to the selenite. We're standing facing each other, and she's going on about, I don't know, should we sit in your bedroom or go upstairs or what? When all of a sudden we heard this incredible, huge crash, and I screamed. The poor dog goes running, and we turn to look. One of those 15 to 20-pound pieces of selenite, actually, it was my piece of selenite, had flown off the bed, landed 2 feet away from the bed on the floor. Now, there's no way that selenite slipped off the bed. Just
Hmm.
absolutely no way. This was picked up and this was thrown off the bed and landed on the floor. And we just looked at each other. My God, that creeped me out like I can't tell you.
Hmm.
I mean, if she wanted to have an experience, yep, there you go. So yeah, I mean, that spirit could pick up a 15 to 20 pound
Yeah.
slab of selenite and heave it. I mean, literally 2 feet from the bed. So it wasn't like this, it just kind of slid off and fell down. I mean, this was thrown.
No, I can imagine. I mean, it was sinking to the mattress, so there's no
Oh
way it's
yeah.
going to be just sort of rolling off the
And
bed or
that was
something.
that was the weird part is I looked at the bed and you could still see the imprint of my slab of selenite in the mattress next to hers. And it's funny, I, over the years, have kind of I've had a few people weigh in on that experience. And a couple of people have come to a consensus that that was almost a warning sign for me. This particular person who came in my house with the selenite evidently kind of proved to be a less than truthful, upright person in the
Right.
spiritual community. So I think that was a way of my guides kind of going, okay, pay attention, get away from her. I don't know. I just kind of have come to that conclusion over the years that could have been a warning for
A
me.
warning, right? Yeah. Well, I've heard that sort of a thing before, that you do get warnings from
Yeah. Oh
to
yeah.
keep away from certain
Oh yeah.
people. I've
Yeah.
learned a few lessons over the years.
Yeah. Exactly. Good
I'll tell you what,
Lord.
Kevin, this has been really brilliant talking to you. We've got so many things that we could cover. I've got to get you back on the show again sometime. Will
Thank
you
you.
come
I
back?
would
Because
love
we
it.
we haven't even talked about aliens and God knows what else here.
I'm halfway
And
through my list, Damon.
so if you would come back on perhaps in a couple of months, we would be brilliant. We'll talk about aliens and UFOs and all sorts of things.
Oh, there you go. Sign me up.
That's
I'm on board.
absolutely brilliant. I'll hold you to that. Anyway, Kathy, so
Thank
you take care
you.
of yourself, and thank you so
You
much for coming
too.
on again. And we will do it again.
It's been an honor. Thank you, my friend.
No, thank you. Take care of yourself. No, no. Bye
Okay,
bye,
will
Kathy.
do.
Cheers. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.